What's up guys, I'm back with another Notion video. Now, I've gotten some great feedback from these. These are pretty much like the main videos on my channel that you guys are enjoying right now. This one I'm really excited about because it's going to be a video on note-taking. Now, why is note-taking important? I think note-taking is super important because it allows you to kind of retain information and also just refer back to it later. So let's get right into it. I'm going to show you guys 3 traditional note-taking methods, but I'm going to show you how to put them in place in Notion. So let's go. All right, so what you guys are looking at right now is somewhat of a page that I created for this tutorial. I'm calling it note-taking methods. So once you have set something up in Notion like this, you've got workspaces and then you've got like pages that go under them that are basically like mini workspaces. And I've just created this note-taking methods one. And today I'm going to show you a few note-taking methods. First and foremost, I'm going to show you the Cornell method. Okay, and then next I'm going to show you the outline method in Notion, which is like a hierarchical note-taking method. And then lastly, I'm going to show you the mind map method in Notion. And you probably know of all of these, but stick around because you can really start to gain a lot of knowledge on how you can take these notes faster and how you can execute these faster using Notion. And then at the end, I'm also going to show you my note-taking database. Where I store all of these notes and I can easily search them at any time. All right, so let's get right into it. First and foremost, the Cornell method. So in Cornell note-taking, there are 3 sections. If you're familiar with this, you probably already know this, but let me show you how to set this up in Notion, okay? So first and foremost, you're gonna have the Q/question section, and this is really how you kind of start to learn and retain information by using this section. The Cornell note-taking method is really good for like trainings that you watch, things that are just like really hard to grasp, like new concepts, because it'll really start to give you an idea of, what matters in a concept, and it'll give you the right questions to ask. It's just a really good way to memorize things, okay? So you have the Q/question section, and then you have another section that is called like basically your note-taking section, and that's kind of like your scratch pad, and I'm just gonna spell note-taking correctly. And then lastly, you have a summary section, okay? Now you could do it like this where you have them all lined up, but the traditional Cornell note-taking method, in that method, you will line them up. So what I do is I drag note-taking here over to the side of Q/question. And then you put the summary underneath it all, because that's just generally how it is when you're taking Cornell notes. So I like to just bold this, and then bold summary. And you can just drag this right over because you don't need a ton of space for the Q/question area. You're going to have some, some basic questions to go over. But you can also, change the size of this stuff and change the color. You could do like an orange if you wanted to, and then you could do like a yellow, and then for the summary, maybe you do like a green. So there's kind of like a color progression to it. But basically what you want to be doing is if you are watching a training, or if you're listening to a talk, or you're listening to a lecture, or even if you're at a meeting and you have to retain a lot of the information, is you're not going to focus on this Q/question area until the very end of the meeting, because this prompts you to actually like really solidify the knowledge into your mind at the end. What you're going to do is you're going to really kind of just focus on the note-taking section for the entirety of, whatever you're taking notes on. Okay, so you're really just going to list out like basically the details, things that you need to remember here. And then towards the end of the meeting, you're going to write a summary and basically just like list what the whole thing was about, list the key points. And this is in like a paragraph form. Okay, so you're just going to write that there. And then what you want to do like right after the meeting is you want to come in here and you want to add some cues and questions, okay? All right, so the reason that questions are so important is because, as Einstein said, if I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, I would spend the first 55 minutes determining the proper questions to ask. For once I know the proper question, I could solve the problem in less than 5 minutes, okay? And I really agree with this, just, based on my life experience and like, going into different subjects, knowing the right question usually is the first step to getting the answer. Now, the next note-taking method is one that I learned from my English teacher back in the day. And the dude was like, he actually would teach all kinds of things like outside of the realm of English. He taught you, how to have proper manners, how to shake a hand,
how to just be a better person in life. And he really taught me a lot of, aside from like what my father taught me when I was younger, he taught me what it meant to be a man, basically. So, note taking is super important in life. And that's one of the things that he taught me. And one of the, most basic ways to take notes is that, you just do a hierarchical note taking fashion. And that's the note taking method that he taught me. And it's basically like an outline method. Okay, so you can always start out with like a capital I for like the Roman numeral 1, and then you can go down to like an II for Roman numeral 2. And really, as I said, it's just hierarchical. So we've got like main topics. As they go on and progress, you're going to get into subtopics, which you can put like an A or a capital A, subtopic. And then within these subtopics, a lot of times you're going to have like the actual nitty gritty details, okay? So for example, I like to just do like a 1 here. And then if you want to go even a step lower, you could do like a lowercase I, okay? And you could go like micro details, okay? And this is really like how you take notes with a traditional like note-taking method. And I find that this stuff is best for lectures. It's best if you have like a lot of these main topics and you want to like separate stuff out, because honestly, the Cornell method is great for like one topic at a time. But if you are trying to kind of study a bunch of different topics, then this is a good way to kind of separate out what these different parts mean. Like for example, if you were studying government, in government, there are like these different branches. There's the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. This is how it works in the US here. So, if you were studying these different sort of branches, it would be a good note-taking method for that, right? Because you could write legislative, executive, and judicial as your, your highest topic. And then here for the subtopic, you could do like Congress, you could do B, and you could do Senate, and then you could do a C, and you could do the House. Okay, that's just an example. I could continue going on and like showing you, how this would work, but this type of topic where you're kind of like looking at different main topics, it's really good for stuff like that so that you can kind of separate it out. Other cool thing about Notion is if you wanted to, you can actually condense this a little bit, because you might end up with a really long section here. But what you can actually do is you can turn this first piece of text here, you can turn it bold, and then you can actually change what sort of properties it has. So I believe if I actually need to separate that out from the legislative, and then if you highlight it, you can turn it into a toggled list. And that way you're going to, you're going to have all of the information inside, but it's not going to take up so much room. So I would recommend like highlighting all of these main topics and turning them into toggled lists so that you have everything else within them. And it's just really easy so that you can focus on one thing at a time. That's really why Notion and putting all this stuff in Notion is going to save you a whole bunch of time. And keep in mind, you might also be able to throw some pictures in here if you have a picture that you need to put in here. And if you have like a ton of pictures and they're all like going all the way down the page, it's just going to take forever for you to be able to actually, take these notes properly and sift through them once you're done taking the notes. So I recommend turning these into these little toggle lists. And that's one of the great things about Notion. Now, the last note-taking method that I want to show you before I show you guys how I store these notes and how I create databases with notes so that you can kind of like search them and go find them all in the future. The last one that I'm going to show you guys is mind mapping, okay? So mind mapping is probably, I would say, my least favorite way of taking notes, but it does have a purpose, and usually mind mapping is good for like brainstorming and things like that, where you are trying to generate new ideas or you're trying to like link concepts together, okay? And this can give you a bird's eye view of how a system works, or how, I guess basically how anything works from a high level. So what I like to do is use those toggle lists again to create kind of like main topics, and then you can kind of branch down. So one of the things that I talk about with my clients in business is finding your niche and finding your market and finding ideas for products and services that you can produce for them. And what you actually use to do that is you create mind maps. Okay, and now mind maps can take many forms. A lot of times people will actually, let me show you really quick. People will do this on paper, and it's going to look a little bit different on paper. They'll start with, let me draw this really quick. They'll start with a main topic here, and then they'll branch out into the subtopics out here, and then subtopics have, even more drilled down topics that they get into out here. So that's kind of what a mind map can look like. However, I'm going to show you guys kind of how I like to do it in Notion, just because it makes it a little bit easier. Now, what I like to do is when I'm asking somebody, this is just an example, you could use a mind map for a number of things, but when I'm trying to drill down on a niche with somebody, like in business, I like to ask them, like, what's your main niche, right? Like, what's the main thing, that circle in the middle? And if they're in like the videography niche, right, there's a lot that has to do with video. So let's just like really drill down into what this could mean, okay? So I'm going to create a bigger kind of heading for videography, and then underneath that, we're going to create a few different, subtopics of video, which one of them might be like editing, one of them might be like cinematography, and then one of them might be like corporate video. One of them might be like just the gear that you use with video. You know what I'm saying? So what I like to do is drag these all and make basically just like lists underneath the main one, which is videography. And let me actually make sure this is, so we're actually going to do heading 1, and then these all get a heading 2, so that we're kind of getting smaller and smaller as we go down. And I'm actually going to drag this out so that we get the full space for cinematography. That's why Notion is so nice, is because you can really, it's just really flexible. You can do stuff like this and make things look nice, because I like to make things look nice too. I don't, I'm not just all about efficiency. I like to make things look pretty nice as well. So, all right, anyways, that is what you would do. So after you get to this point, you can kind of list out the next sort of subtopic below this. So for editing, it might be color grading, or it might be, let's say, cutting. Okay, and now I'm not like a huge video pro. I've done it as somewhat of a hobby, but I'm not like huge on this. So correct me if I'm wrong on any of this stuff. But like basically, you've got like the subtopics of editing, and then you've got the subtopics of cinematography, which are like lens choice, maybe, lighting choice. And then under corporate, these aren't all just necessarily like the parts of videography, but they could just be things related to videography. So like corporate videography could be like interviews or product showcases. And then you could go over to gear, and you could talk about cameras, and you could talk about tripods. So the point of doing this exercise, this mind map exercise, is really for generating ideas. And one of the things that people struggle with is they have a business that they're passionate about, or they have a niche like videography that they're passionate about, but they just don't know where the problems lie. So once you separate it out like this, you can start to see where the problems are that you can help people with in the market. Like cameras, maybe you just want to be like a camera tech person, and you probably want to even drill this down a step further to like a certain type of camera. So like Canon EOS cameras, right? Like, so basically, like, that's how you kind of can drill down to the things that, number one, you're really interested in, and then number two, the things that like people actually need help with. So this is what I recommend for like generating ideas. Now let me show you guys how I store my notes once I've created a bunch of them. All right, so this is just a little look at what my note-taking table looks like. And inside of here, I can kind of drill into all the different notes that I've taken over time, like these notes on how to make decisions based on a Sam Ovens video that I watched. Okay, and as you can see, it has some tags. That's Sam Ovens mindset, stress, YouTube video, Cliff Notes. It has a whole bunch of different key terms that I can search with here. So if I type in Sam Ovens, whoops, misspelled it, that's not gonna work. Sam Ovens, it's gonna pull up all of my Sam Ovens notes because I've got Sam Ovens tags on here. Or if I pull up mindset, it's gonna pull up all of my mindset notes, okay? So idea, let's just say, we've got a bunch of ideas here now because I've tagged these with idea. Now, this is super powerful, right? Because you can always kind of like go in here and let's say you're studying like a bunch of different things in school and you just want all of your calculus notes that were on a specific topic. Maybe I don't know much about calculus, so I'm not going to go into depth with that, but like basically you would create a tag for that specific subject. And this just makes it so you don't have to flip through a notebook forever to try to find out where you left those notes. Plus, it's just quicker because you have things like those toggle lists that I showed you, and you can copy and paste stuff a whole lot faster. You know, there's a time and place for pencil and paper. I totally agree. But this is a lot quicker. And I even recommend, you know, just scanning in your notes if you do write them on paper into Notion afterwards. And maybe I'll make a video on that. Let me know if you guys want to see a video on that. But anyways, so what you want to do is create a table like this. So I'm going to show you guys how to create a table like this. I've shown in past videos how to do it, but I want to show you guys again just really quick since you are on this note-taking video. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my note-taking methods page. I'm just going to delete this out of here. And really what you need is like a page or a workspace to start with. And you're just going to name it like Note Database, or mine's just called All Notes. Okay, then what you're going to do is you're going to click this plus button and you're going to find the table. Okay, and I like to just use an inline table on here and then just name it Notes. Okay, and you can kind of like decide on what columns you want here, but you can have a tags column, and this is what I use to actually back search the different tags that I put on the videos or on the notes. So that's actually just multi-select, and that comes standard here. If you have a bunch of people in your organization, you can also hit person, and it will person, and it will kind of tell you like who's responsible for the note. You can do date so that you can go back and find the date that you guys did the note, just because sometimes you're looking for a note that you took last summer, right? Because you know that was around the time that you would have taken the note, and that can just kind of give you another dimension for searching for your notes. Now, the name is basically just like what the top of your note is, like what the headline of it is. So let's just, you know, come up with a name, and then I'll show you guys how to add tags, people, and then date. Okay, so the name of your note might be something along the lines of how to invest. Okay, let's just say like you're listening to a video on YouTube and you wanted to like, you know, take notes on investing. Okay, so once I create that, it's actually going to create this link where you can open this page. Okay, and now the cool thing about this is I can open this up and I've got all of my space to take notes here. So I could use that Cornell method that I showed you guys earlier in the video, or you could use the hierarchy, or you could use the mind map in here. Okay, and under tags, you can kind of come up with these tags. So let's just say investing, you know, money, ideas, okay? And then you get like all of these options in here for the future that you can come back and click on. So once you've gone through and you've added a bunch of these different topics, you're not going to have to do it as frequently anymore because you'll have all of the topics in here that you need. But you can also change the color of these, right? So money should probably be green. We'll keep ideas yellow, investing purple, and you can also add icons. Okay, so if you want to, you know, spice it up a little bit, let's throw some money on this one. So investing, cool. And then, you know, you can put a person. So I'm Carter Sriracha, so I'm going to use that. I can put a date. It's January 27th today, so I'm going to put that in there. Okay, and now you would just put your notes in here, like I showed you earlier. And if you work in an organization, the beauty of this is you can add comments too. And you can @, people. So maybe you took notes at a meeting and you wanted to @ you know, somebody in your organization and just say, hey, I thought you'd enjoy this note, and send it to them. Okay, and then you put your notes here. All right. So what this looks like is once you click out of here, you know, now I have one of those notes in here, and then I could go in and I could make another note. Let me just come up with an example. How to take notes. Maybe you took notes on how to take notes when you were watching this video, right? So we would open that up just by hitting open, and we're going to put notes in there, and maybe we want to select ideas from earlier. We're going to go Carter Sriracha. We're going to go date 27th, and you can write how to take notes, and you can write out the headlines, the details, all of that stuff right there. So this is kind of how you store them, and I forgot to add an icon here, so I'm going to do that really quick. Let's just do a notebook. Cool. And now you have a database where you can put all of these awesome notes. Now, guys, I didn't just learn these methods like out of thin air. I've, kind of like gathered them over the years. But one of the videos that I watched when I was researching this, note-taking subject is a Thomas Frank video. So you guys are probably familiar with who Thomas Frank is, but if you're not, he's a huge YouTuber. He has some awesome videos on like more in-depth note-taking. That's like more of his forte. I'm not necessarily like a big note-taking genius or anything like that. I just kind of learn things from other people. But if you want to drill down into these different note-taking methods and watch a few more note-taking methods, I recommend checking out his video. I'm going to link it up in one of the corners. I'll put a card up there. I'll have my editor put a card up there, and you guys can check that out. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.